Michelle. Hey, Julia. Thank you for telling me that there was no sound, guys, because seriously, I would have been going on for the next 30 minutes. Here we go. So now I'm going to say what I just said, except for you're going to hear me now. Unless these lip readers out there are like, I know what you said. So these women in history that I have featured, I featured 4 of them for last year for Women's History Month, right? I featured these women because I'm like, women's history is just killer. And then Judith Cohen came along and I was like, what? I'm bringing back Everyday Miracle Women in History just for this chick. So I think I did that in like August or something. And she turned out to be Jack Black's mom. She was her own famous, and then she's like also a famous kid's mom. Okay. So today, it's like being in Epcot and being like, what do you want to eat? It's like, I don't know. There are so many good places. Like, all these different countries have good food. What am I supposed to want right now? Let me check in with my stomach. Hang on a second. Because I like all of them, but like, what is my stomach like? And today, my stomach really likes this one. So wait. So while we're not comparing women, we don't do that. We like them all. But my stomach was really in the mood for this one. So, to honor Women's History Month, we are going to feature these women. And I don't know if I'm going to do 4 or 3 or 2 this month, but I'm doing these women, so stay tuned and we'll find out. But I'm bringing this back because it's just, this lights me up so much. And what I found is that for the women that I help, for the women in my circle and for the clients that I have, these stories are so inspirational because these women, if you don't know like what Everyday Miracle Women in History is about, I'm featuring women that have typically received no fame or notoriety today for what they did then. They're all dead. Everyone that I featured has been deceased and is no longer with us, yet everything that they did is still affecting us and making our lives better now. So this is why it's like, I want people to remember who these people are because of what they were able to do. And also at the same time, when you find out what they did, you're going to be like, oh, the women back then did that with the little amount of resources and everybody else telling them they couldn't. So there's definitely no way that I can say that I can't do this now with all of the free resources, all the access, all the communication. So this is really an inspirational kind of movement to show, hey, these women that are no longer here, they were a big deal. They were a big effing deal. And you should know about them because that means that you can do this too. Their victories and their successes and their championships are like just evidence. It's just evidence that you can too, especially on blast with like steroids, that you can do it too because they had nothing. Like they had these women that I featured were like not supposed to. They were never supposed to do what they did. So play with me as we go through this next one. Woo! It couldn't be more perfect timing to have Women's History Month, which was a total accident, but this is when my Legacy Makers program is going to be running, which is starting next week. And I can't think of a better way to honor the Legacy Makers program to like kick it off than talking about these like living legends. Well, they're no longer living, but they were when they were alive too. Like they made big moves happen while they were around, and their legacy is living on today. So decades or over 100 years even after they're gone, their legacy is still here. Like this is what you get to do. So, I'm going to take it back to 1864. We are in 1864. This is Armstrong County, Pennsylvania. A town that has 700 people now. So, like, what was it back then? 4? I don't know. Currently now, in 2022, there are 700 people living in Armstrong County. This is where we're talking about. Okay, so Farmville, USA. And this chubby little baby was born. Her name was Elizabeth Cochrane. Nobody calls her that though. Elizabeth Cochrane, for a little bit, she was Elizabeth. And her dad was 6 years old when he died. He was a judge. He ended up dying. The family was penniless though. He had like no estate. He didn't leave his family anything, and there was no will anyway. And he had 15 kids, so 15 on purpose, maybe. So he had 15, and the mother of the clan had like, no means. We're talking about the 1800s, right? This is 1860, this would have been 1870 that this happened. And so what's she going to do with 15 kids? Get a job? Where? Women weren't even like really allowed to work. Not many places. So so she gets married to a drunk, notorious drunk, but like he had some money, so he could help some. They could get food, you know, like this was the exchange. So, and for anybody that was in my aligned legacy, you're gonna get that piece, right? Like, you know what I'm saying underneath here. So she had 14. This girl, Elizabeth Cochrane, 6 years old. She had 14 brothers and sisters, and they didn't have very much money at all. And this drunk was getting he was abusing everybody in the family. Like they didn't go into detail about the abuse, but everyone was getting abused, and eventually the mother divorced him. But this Elizabeth saw the impact of the way that a woman was treated when her husband dies, the way that a woman was treated when somebody else comes in to like fix it, and the lack of support that she got during the time. So her brothers, I mean, she had a bunch of them, but her brothers, like if anyone's going to go to school, it's going to be the boys, because the boys are going to return on that investment. The boys are going to get a job and they can help support the family. So what are the girls going to do? Stay home and help take care of this entire brood. Okay, thanks. And the boys are like, I don't have to change diapers. This is sweet. So they leave and they go to school, and then they can get actual jobs. If a girl goes to school, she's not going to get a job like he gets. It's just, at the time, it was like, where your parents going to put it? You know, they're going to put the education on the boys. So the mother of this clan, Mother Cochrane. By the way, she's not related to Josephine Cochrane, who invented the dishwasher. We talked about her. It was roughly the same era, but they're not related. So anyway, the mom's like, hey, what's your name? Elizabeth? Whatever. Come here. Take care of all these kids. I got other stuff to do. Your brother's going to be at school. Also make meals for us. And she's like, great. This is a chick who is, Elizabeth is a girl who's very creative, very energetic, very boisterous, okay? She had a reputation for that. So, like, boxing her in to, like, take care of her siblings that she didn't want to take care of, really. Not like that. Like, that wasn't her choice, but she did her job. There was no, like, Sudoku books, no online games, no apps. It's 1870, mid-1870s at this point, right? And she's like, whatever. So she's a teenager, and she's reading the newspaper. It's all she's got to keep her brain going at this point. So this goes on. The newspaper was like what she had. By the time she's like 21 years old, she's sitting down, probably still taking care of kids. Hopefully nobody's in diapers still, whatever. She's taking care of these kids, but she's at the table. I'm imagining her being like, done for the day. She's like knocking back 2 Earl Greys, 3, 4, like whatever, just F it, like all the tea. And then she's reading the paper and she's like, finally a chance to relax. So she reads the paper and then she's like, what the ever-loving F is this? This is a Pittsburgh paper. She's close to Pittsburgh, right? This little Armstrong County. Throws her tea across the wall, probably. And the headline says, and oh no you didn't, the headline says, after she's experienced what she's experienced and what she's living in, what girls are good for is the title. This is the headline of the article. So she's like, I can't wait to read this. This is going to be insightful. This is going to be like, this is going to be like an elevated piece. I can't wait. Illuminating perspective. Somebody who knows something about girls. Here we go. Dives in. So the thesis of this article basically said, you guessed it, stay home and have babies, and also maybe be barefoot and like keep having babies and be pregnant, and dishes and like laundry is probably important. Also food, give us the food. This article made women out to be housemaids, and even said if they're going to get a job at all, like a factory would be a good place to put them, because like they can make stuff. Right? Like they make babies, they can probably make stuff, put them in a factory where we don't have to see them and we can abuse them and stuff. And like there's really terrible conditions in the 1800s for the Industrial Revolution. Like we just put them in there. It's called sweatshops. Like put the women in there. So there's like no, he even said, the writer of the article even said, compared women to like the then standard of disposing of female girls, like getting rid of female babies. He insinuated that it would be better to do that than to let them live this suffering existence of having to be a girl. So Elizabeth was like, well, nope. I'm going to take my pen and my paper, and you're about to watch out. So she writes an article back to this newspaper. I dare you to read this. If you look this up, and I will tell you what to look up after. Look up this article. She tears him to shreds. professionally, politely. And if you read it, you're like, it wasn't that badass. It was. The badassery level was huge, but it's like in Victorian era speak, so it's not like you're not going to use this today and cut somebody up. But she tore him apart. And she made him look so bad, but in such an educated way. It was like the best form of like slicing and dicing you've ever seen. And it was a girl who wrote it. And she submitted it anonymously so that it would get through. So, but she signed it Lonely Orphan Girl, as if to speak to everything that he just wrote. Well, it was anonymous, so when the editor tried to get in touch with her, he couldn't because it was anonymous. Like, who's he going to send it to? So he puts an ad out in his own paper to have the lonely orphan girl contact him. He wanted to give her a job. She's like a really good writer. And she's super intelligent based on what she was able to just do. And they like printed it. Like they printed it and like made him look so embarrassed. I love that they printed it. Because like they have a writer on staff and they should want him to stay on staff. But like if it was me, I would like hide in a hole for the rest of my life if somebody wrote that back to me. But like he really didn't think women were human or anything. So it was amazing. But so the editor was like, I want you to work for me. And she's like, I don't know, maybe. And he's like, but like, I'm going to give you a real job. And she's like, yeah, let's do that. Because otherwise I'm taking care of babies and that sucks. And I've drank too much tea in the last 10 years and I need to stop. And he's like, okay, but your name's like really girly. It sounds like you're still a girl. So we're a newspaper business and I just really want to enforce like people reading our stuff. So we're just going to change your name, okay? Your name's now Nellie Bly. And she's like, okay, do you remember Hedy Lamarr? They changed her name too. Apparently, like, men can just change women's names when they don't like them. It's fine. So she's getting paid like 50% less than any of the male writers, but it's still like $5 a week. So she's like, I'll take it. Whatever, shut up, I'll take it. Because now I have a platform to speak on all of these social justice issues. She was like a feminist of her time, a feminist being not a male basher, feminist being we're human and we're happen to be female humans, so like can we have rights too? And they're like, but not really, our constitution doesn't include you yet. You're sweet though, we like you enough to keep you alive, but like you're not a citizen. Oh, that's cute. So she exposed all of these things. So she was like on a social justice bent for everyone, not just for women, but for like everyone. So she wanted to expose like the harsh conditions in everywhere that she sees them, all the like injustice that she sees. So for her, this is going to be fine. She goes undercover for her first job. Undercover work as a writer, as a journalist, was very limited. Like this wasn't a big industry yet. Like it wasn't commonly done. And if it was done by men. It was done by men. But she was like, the factories though, like this is sweatshopville. We need to expose what's going on in these factories. So she goes undercover to get a factory job. And she sees what's going on in there and she's like, absolutely not. So she exposes this factory and writes an article about it and starts improving conditions because now everyone's like, wait, what? What are they doing to my wife there? What are they doing to my sister? Like, what are they doing to my daughter? So she's exposing these things. There's no social media, obviously. So the newspaper is it. There's no TV. The newspaper is what everyone like grabs. These paper boys are making bank. They're cute little caps. So adorable. They're like 6. They're also illegally working. Poor boy. So she's doing this all over the place, right? And she like swung a bat at a hornet's nest because all of these advertisers that are in the newspaper, they don't want to put their ad in that newspaper anymore if this woman is like riling people up. They're like, oh, well, if all these readers think that we're the newspaper, that we support this newspaper and everything that they stand for, then they're not going to buy our product. So the advertisers started pulling out. So the newspaper was like, see what you did there, Nellie, and that was awesome. But we're just going to have to fire you, maybe? Okay. And she's like, this sucks. I finally get a place to work and I can like speak and use my voice and I'm telling the truth and we're like putting bad guys where they belong and now I have to get fired for it? Like, how is this fair at all? So I'm not done yet. So she's like, they didn't fire her though. They like kicked her down to lawn and garden. They're like, write about flowers. There's a new azalea season coming up. So like, I'm sure they're going to be interested. Baked goods. Talk about that. And she's like, so this is like asking like Ruth Bader Ginsburg, like, hey, do you want to like maybe I see all that you're doing and everything, but like small claims court is a really good place for you to go. You should do that. She'd be like, what? So obviously Nellie's not like okay with this, and she's like, that's fine that women want to read this stuff, but like I don't want to work on this anymore. She started like very briefly working on the articles that they asked her to, and then she like pulls an Uno reverse and she's like, I'm out of here, guys. I'm going to New York City. This is where I'll have the most opportunity. It's close-ish to where I live. New York and Pennsylvania are neighbors. So she goes to New York City. She doesn't have a job. And so for weeks, she's pounding on doors, asking for jobs. And she finally gets it's months. She finally gets a job at the New York World. And this was like an established newspaper at the time. So she works with this guy, Joseph Pulitzer. Okay. Joseph Pulitzer is her editor. And this is the beginning of the home run for her. The beginning. And this is like her batting average ends up being a banger. So wait for it. Joseph Pulitzer is like, I like the things that you've written about. I've read them. They're cool. How about this? Me and my guys are thinking about, having somebody go undercover like you've done before, at Blackwell Island. And she's like, and he's like, don't worry about it. It sounds harsh, but like it's just a lunatic asylum for women. So it'll be fine. So if you go in there, people are like rumoring about how this place is like awful and like they get tortured and stuff. Like, so we should put you there. And she's like, okay, they're getting tortured and you guys can't find any evidence because like there's no cell phones or pictures or whatever. So like it's all hearsay. So but you want me to do it because men can't get in because it's a women's thing and like I might get tortured and yeah, let's do this. She says yes immediately because she's like, she doesn't even care. Like she appears to have no fear with like every move that she make. All of the testimonies that that people are giving, people are like, you're incredible. How do you even, and she like doesn't even consider it. She like moves before she even thinks about it. So she's like, I'm going to act like a crazy person. They're going to admit me, potentially torture me and make me stay longer than maybe like I was supposed to. I might never get out. I also don't have rights in America. I'm treated as property. Like, what could go wrong? And Joey, Joseph Pulitzer, he's like, yeah, let's do it. And she's like, okay. So she went to like a woman's like halfway home, kind of like a boarding house for a couple days. She was going to sign up to go for a couple days because she had to now convince people that she was crazy to get in. So because, again, she's a new person in New York City. She doesn't know anybody. It's not like people can call for her and be like, yeah, I think she's crazy. And she really didn't want that kind of credibility because she wanted to be able to get out afterwards. But she's got no plan to get out. And the editors have no plan to get her out. They're just like, just get in and we'll figure it out later. And she's like, okay. Like, really shouldn't have been able to get out at all. So this is, oh my gosh, Angie, you know her? I love this. Angie, oh my gosh, I love her so much. So she goes to this boarding house and she's like trying to practice to be crazy, like in her mirror and stuff. And like, she doesn't know what crazy really looks like, but she's like acting a little bit weird. And mostly what she did at the boarding house was just kind of like mumble some things and like stare at the wall. Oh, a woman was quiet? Something's got to be wrong. A woman's not complaining about something and gossiping? Lock her up, boys. So the boarding house owner calls the cops and is like, we got a problem here. There's a woman looking at a wall. The cops are like, we'll go check it out. So they take their manpower to check out the woman looking at the wall and being really quiet. And they take her to a doctor to get evaluated. And he was like, yeah, she's bat crazy. Like he literally said she's demented. She is demented. Nellie Bly is so demented. This intelligent woman who's like, and she's never seen a crazy person. So it's like, how did she even do this? But she was so demented. So they're like, lock her up. So they send her to Blackwell's Island. This is a little tiny island. I think it was like man-made. It was right off the coast of like, it's, you could spit and you'd be in New York City. It's like right there. Like you could totally throw a rock if you don't like spitting. But they take her there. She gets admitted. And true story, the doctor or the nurse that's like admitting her and like taking her name and height and whatever, like the doctor's like flirting with the nurse the whole time and like they're not really paying attention to her. As soon as she gets into this place, she starts acting normal. She's like, I just need to get in, whatever. So she's super sane. She's totally lucid and everything, just acting like herself. And the more normal she acted, the crazier she seemed to them. So like it didn't matter. Like once you were in, we don't even care. You're crazy. You're nuts. And this, like, the doctor wasn't even paying attention because he was like flirting with the nurse the whole time. And she's like, she's 5'4.5". Like, nobody cared about the patients. Like, it was so clear the second she got in there. So she's like, this is gonna be fun. So when she's in there for a few days, and she realizes, like, it's been 4 or 5 days, these women are getting waterboarded. They're getting cold water torture therapy. They're being forced to sit in these straight back, high back Victorian wooden chairs, not allowed to move for hours at a time. Some of them are being strapped together, like roped together. They're enduring like frigid conditions because there's like no like real solid heat source there at all. They are eating rotten meat, moldy bread, dirty water. They're going to the bathroom wherever. There are rats all over the place. Like, this place is the movies. Like, this place is like, you know, Scorsese's like, where are we going to, Blackwell's Island. People are like, they'll never believe that. He's like, right, they never will. But Blackwell's Island was like that. So all the rumors were true, Lizzo. And so now Nellie's like, I got what I need. But she tried to tell them, like, okay, I'm a reporter, I got to get out of here. And they're like, no, you're crazy. Like, she's like, I'm not crazy. And they're like, everybody says they're not crazy. That's why they're here. She's like, no. So, like, it took days before the editor, Joseph Pulitzer, was like, her, we're going to, come here. She's ours. We're her. Actually, she's been doing a report on all of you, and you're all screwed. All of you. Screwed. And they're like, oh no. So she comes out and she's like, I'm ready for bear. So she writes this huge article. It becomes an award-winning article, okay? It ends up going to, like, what is it? Supreme Court. She shows up to testify, too, because she was literally there for it. And this all resulted, her showing up for 10 days in this lunatic asylum for women is what they called it. Lunatics. And she's showing up, telling them, most of them weren't crazy. Most of them were frustrated, or they had a moment, or like they were stressed out for a week and somebody threw them in here and locked them away. One of the women was just German and they couldn't understand her. So they were like, yeah, we can't understand your language. You're crazy. So they like locked her up too. Like, this was so insane. It was literally insane. And the result of Nellie's article, and this is not even the best part, the result of her article ended up being like over $1 million worth of New York State money to support the mental health institutions to get them operating in a way that was like humane. Let's start there. Let's just be humane. Let's not like make them real comfortable, but like let's get them humane so they're not like eating around their, you know, excrement and the rats and the moldy and rotten, and like there's warmth. There's now like clean linens. Like, they're not doing water therapy torture anymore. This is because Nellie was brave enough to show up and be like, I don't even know how I'm getting out, but I guess we'll try to act crazy. All you have to do is stare at a wall. And then she gets in. Again, women were not actual citizens. They couldn't vote or anything. Like, they're not listed in the Constitution. Okay, so the chances that she had to take a real risk by saying yes to this project. Her guys at the New York World bailed her out, which is great. This is an award-winning article. And it got a ton of attention. People were like outraged about the truth of this. And she went into serious detail and didn't hold back. So she started doing this to like all the social justice stuff. And in New York City at the time, like shooting fish in a barrel. There's stuff going on everywhere. So she's writing these articles exposing these things. She's over 100 like fake names she used, right? Like Mrs. Stephen Fisher, Nora Simpson, like Nellie Brown was one of them, Alice Bostwick. She's going to these places to expose them using fake names. Her articles that she's writing, her name is in the headline. This is when like writers didn't really have a byline, let alone putting their name in the headline. Like the fact that it was Nellie Bly and she came out like explosively through Blackwell Island expose, people are like, Nellie Bly did that, a woman did that. And so now they're like, let's use it, let's leverage it, let's put her name in the headlines. It was crazy. So she's doing like she's exposing a doctor that was like a whole clinic, but this ran by this doctor that's like disposing of babies that are unwanted. This ring of people that were like taking care of the feral cats in New York City by drowning them. 6,000 kittens, like batches of them, like just getting drowned. Like this, she's exposing them. She's like interviewing them as somebody else, or she's just going about that like a random citizen and then like blowing their cover through an article. She was doing details of like poverty and suffering on the streets, these tenement houses where there's like dozens of people crammed into a room to live in there. It's just awful. And she's like blowing up people's spots everywhere. Like corruption, boom. Like she's just like knocking them all down. I can't believe nobody like took care of her. Like it was amazing that she still like made it through this without somebody being angry enough to like do something about that. But she was right. Like she was in the right. She's exposing all these stuff, conditions like fair and better, improvements everywhere she went on all of these things, because like she was hell-bent on exposing. She started doing like these undercover assignments, one a week. Like, she wasn't just like, you know, how some will be like, oh, I had these 6 incredible in my lifetime, and like my career was great. I had like 10. It's like, awesome. One a week. She had over 100 names that she was doing this with. So she was like, the Daily World was so excited to have a writer like this, man or woman. She was doing something that nobody had done for them before, because investigative journalism wasn't really a thing yet. They called it stunt journalism. She was stunting on them. So she's murdering the game, right? She's killing it. It's 1888. She goes to her editor. She's like, McJoe, I got an idea. And he's like, okay. And she goes, you know Jules Verne? And he's like, who doesn't? This is basically like, okay, Jules Verne, like 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, Journey to the Center of the Earth. Everyone knows Jules Verne. He wrote this one book in 1872. This is like Harry Potter stuff, right? Like, this is just, everybody knows about the book. Everybody knows the basically the premise. People get it. Like, you say Harry Potter and they're like, yeah, the kid, Hogwarts, he's a wizard, orphan, got it. That's how it was with Jules Verne. And she goes, and he in 1872 he wrote this book. It was 1888. Everybody's already read it. Jules Verne is still alive. He's still alive. So she goes, McJojo, you know that book, like Around the World in 80 Days? Jules wrote that thing. And he's like, yeah, fire. And she's like, right. She goes, well, I was thinking, you know how it's like a fake, like it's like just like a pretend book, like, right? Like, it's, you know, it's fiction. And the character in it isn't real. But like, what if I could do it in 80 days? I think I could do it. Actually, you know what? I think I could beat it. And he's like, okay, number one, we only have locomotives and ships to go on the water. We're still cruising around here with like a lot of carriages and stuff and like bicycles. So we can do in 80 days. Another thing, Miss Nellie Bly, is that you're a woman. I feel like you forget that sometimes when you talk. And she's like, what? And he goes, but you're a woman, so you need a companion. And you've got a lot of luggage, because women have luggage. So that's going to slow you down. There's no way you could beat a man's record. Also, you're a woman. You can't travel, not without a companion. Also, you only know English. And also the luggage. And she's like, stop saying the luggage. And he's like, no, but seriously, like, you're going to have to carry a lot of stuff. And there's no way that a woman can do this. It's a man's job. And it's not a bad idea at all. I think it's fun. It's catchy. People would read it. Everybody loves Jules Verne. But like, maybe I should give it to one of the male writers. She goes, you give it to a male writer? I will quit. And I will work for your competitor. And I will beat him too. And that would be newsworthy, wouldn't it? And he's like, you know what? You're right. You know, you would do that. You do like everything you say you'll do. Also, if anyone could do that, it'd be you, and I don't really want to be dragged through the mud with you. Okay. So it took like a year to convince him, like, to fully get the newspaper behind her, because they got to pay for it. So she's like, I really got to work him. So she knew that everyone's going to read it. And she's like, if I could do it faster, though, it would be killer. The fact that she would be a woman to do it at all, even if she got it in like 90 days, the fact that a woman traveled alone and the press had it, the press took a hold of it, would be like, women can travel alone? What? Like, it would blow people's socks off. So she's going to travel alone, and it's 1889. She's about to take off. Cosmopolitan, you know, Cosmo. They're like, oh, this Nellie Bly chick, she's going around the world and she's going to do it in 80 days or less. But there's no way she's actually going to do it. But everyone's going to follow her. And we're kind of like a baby magazine. We've only been around for a couple years. So like, I'm going to find a girl in our office. Where do we got? We got an editor over there. I'm going to send her. Her name's Elizabeth. Let's go. So Elizabeth, like, Bisland is her name. Elizabeth Bisland. Nellie's name is actually Elizabeth. So they got like a doppelganger in every way. And they're like, we're going to send her. Hey, Elizabeth, you, new girl. We're paying you what, like 50 cents a week? Right. Got an assignment for you. And she's like, oh, an assignment, like a real job. And he's like, kinda. It's going to be life-threatening. We need you to race this chick around the world. Your boat leaves in 2 hours. And she's like, what? So she's now racing Nellie. Nellie doesn't know it. And Nellie shows up to her boat, and she's going. Like, she's already taken off, right? She's going. And she ends up, this girl, Elizabeth Brisbane, actually, she went west. Nellie Bly's taking off from New York City by boat, across the Atlantic. Elizabeth goes west She's going to take a boat from California, so she's got to travel on a train to get there too. So she leaves, but Nellie's already like getting on the boat, and the press is all over her, right? Because they're like, we're going to get the start of this. We're going to follow this all over the world. And she's got 2 small bags. That's all they could talk about, was the fact that she had 2 small bags. Because, well, and there's a little bit of premise to this, because women in the Victorian age, they had so much to wear. Like, it was like layers and layers and layers of all this stuff. So the luggage that they would have to carry as a lady, if they're going to do lady things and like appear like a woman of any rank in society, they'd have to have this stuff on them. Well, the trunks that they would have to carry are trunks. They're not luggage like we know it. They're like enormous trunks. Think Journey to the Center of the Earth. These things are huge, with like the big key lock and stuff, like a pirate's chest. And they'd have like 5 of them. Like, who's going to carry? So she shows up with 2, like, think of weekender bags, like those. She shows up with those, and she's like, let's do it. I don't even have a full change of clothes. I have a dress that I'm wearing. I'm wearing that, some underwear and socks and stuff, and like, let's do it. And they're like, she's so brave for carrying 2 bags. This is where we're at. So Cosmo sends Elizabeth. Nellie Bly is on her boat. She's on the way to England. She gets there, and she's received by somebody at the port that's like, hey, are you Nellie Bly? And all the people are taking pictures of her, and they're like, she's here, she's here. And they're documenting her trip all the way across the world, right? She's telegraphing home. She's letting them know where she's at. And somebody's like, Jules Verne wants to meet with you at his estate. And she's like, what? She's like, I got time. Like, I'm going to beat this record anyway. I got time. So she goes to Jules Verne's estate, and he's like, I like what you're doing, kid. I hope you make it. 80 around the world, 80. You can do this. You got this. He and his wife are like, she's got this. Let's give her some food for a weekender bag. And like, takes care of her, and she's off. So I wouldn't be surprised if you gave her money, but I don't think they said that. So anyway, so she's off. She gets to meet the hero that like inspired the journey. How cool is that? He was still freaking alive, and he has this enormous estate in France. Anyway, so she's back on track. She's traveling around the world. She's reporting back. All of the news wires that are going back home to New York are talking about the fact that she's got 2 bags. Like, everybody keeps talking about that. Oh my gosh, she's in Egypt now. Oh my gosh, she's in Taiwan. Oh my gosh, she's in Japan. It's like, she's only got 2 bags. She's like, guys, I'm doing really big things here. Can anybody pay attention? So she gets back to the West Coast, right? So she's all from New York all the way around the Pacific. Now she's in the West Coast. She's in California. Now she hops a private train back to New York. She rocked the globe. Okay. She was only 24 years old when she did this. She'd already become a media powerhouse with her undercover journalism, investigative journalism, that women weren't supposed to do, and most men didn't do it, and nobody really talked about it. It wasn't even called that. It was stunt journalism. And then she's like, I got an idea. You know that book that's like amazing and everybody loves it, and everyone's like, yeah, I love that book. And she's like, 80 days. Fake character could do it in 80 days. Like, I could do it. And then they're like, why would you ever do something that a fictional character could hardly do? And she's like, because I'm a woman. That's why. So she gets back to New York. You know how many days it took her? It didn't even take her 80 days. 72 mother heckin' days. And then she finds out that somebody was racing her. And she's like, what are you talking about? I wasn't racing anybody. I was racing Jules Verne pretend character. And also I beat him. I buried him. And then she finds out that this other woman, Elizabeth Bisland, did it too, like right after her. She didn't beat her though, obviously. But she made it in 76 days. She also beat the record. So a second woman, this worldwide press that 2 women are traveling around the world and they're copying this Jules Verne character, and like, this is the biggest deal ever. And women can travel alone and they can do it with 2 bags, and that's it. This is amazing. And nobody knew that women could be humans at the same time, and they didn't just have babies. What? The world is falling apart. The fact that 2 women did it, and they did it faster than even a fictional male character could do it, like, probably turned some men's gray matter to ooze, but this happened and it'll never go away. So she made the biggest splash ever, and it was like really, really good for New York World, for her newspaper, because like advertisers were all over them now. So, and they were doing fine before, but like once Nellie was introduced, all of her stories were killer. The fact that she did this worldwide like press tour essentially was amazing for them, and nobody had ever done it, anything like that. And so she's like, she gets back to the paper, New York World, her homeboy, like main man, Jojo McJoey, Pulitzer is like, you're awesome. But like, I'm not gonna give you a bonus though. And she's like, yeah, that sounds about right. So I'm going to quit and you're not going to have me as a writer anymore. And I hate you. I don't, she said that or not, but I would say that to him. So she was like, I hate you and I'm gone. And good luck with your stupid newspaper. And I'm going to go write a book. And you know what it's going to be called? Around the World in 72 Days. Take that. But I love you, Jules. And Jules is like, nah, get it, girl. So she writes this book. So now she's like a published author and it's killer. And New York, like the New York World, Joe Pulitzer is like licking his wounds because his paper's not doing as well now, obviously. And they begged her back. 3 years later, it took them 3 years to like, you know, stop tucking their tail. But they brought her back. And so she jumped into more investigative journalism pieces and making them money over and over again. And so by the time she was 30 years old, so 6 years later, so she's 27 when she goes back there. She's now 30 years old. And she's like, I know that I avoided marriage for so long because my mom like had it really rough and that was awful. But like, I feel like I want to get married now. And she marries this 73-year-old man. She's 30 and she's like really beautiful. But do you have to go in? Anyway, so she's considered like an old maid at 30 though. Like this is Victorian times. This is archaic. So, like, he might have been the only one that she could hitch her wagon to. She didn't need him, but I feel like she must have been lonely. So, maybe there was love there. Let's cross our fingers. This guy was the owner of a major manufacturing corporation. Like, it was for iron, manufactured iron. And so it's, like, really a stereotype, but whatever. So she started consulting for his company and she was speaking into it. She was like on the board or whatever. And she ended up even like patenting. She's like, I guess I can do this now too. So she patents this like design for a milk can and a garbage can to improve things for people. Like, what aren't you getting your hands on, Nellie? Like, what aren't you improving in the world? Literally, she's like a fairy godmother for anything she comes in contact with. She's like, you need to be better. You need to be better, blah, blah, blah. So she's consulting for this company and, I feel like she was just like out there manifesting before that word was even used. And this is 1904 now. And her husband just died because obviously so old. And so she takes over the company as president. But the suffrage movement is kicking in because women didn't have the right to vote. And this is when women were like, we want to vote. And men are like, what are you, crazy? You're not even humans. And they're like, yeah, but we want to vote though. Also, we're still human. So she's writing supportive articles for that. She's like covering that press. She's doing that. She's also like covering press on all this stuff going on in World War II because this is at the time, right? World War I, and she's so in it. She's so involved in like the heartbeat of America and everything that everybody is trying to work for and towards. And she's been such an like instrumental piece of the culture for so long with the biggest mouthpiece ever. Like she got the reader's attention because that's all they could do is read. And she's covering all of this stuff. So she's, what is she, 57? Just 57 years old. On January 27th, 1922, 100 years ago, almost exactly 100 years ago, she dies of pneumonia. What a way to go. Blech. But the New York Evening called her the best reporter in America. And women weren't really supposed to be reporters. They weren't supposed to be writers at all. They weren't supposed to have articles. They weren't supposed to do anything but maybe edit. And once she dies, they're now saying she's the best reporter in America. She's doing undercover stuff like hundreds. Like she was a true trailblazer, investigative journalist, business owner, author, world-renowned traveler. Like she pioneered a path for not just women, but all journalists. And she gave her life to exposing injustice wherever she could and improving the lives for people wherever she could. A big piece of that was women because women were so poorly treated for so long, still are. But she made actual changes in our government. They changed laws, they changed practices because of what she did. So the treatment for mental health institutions, they were never the same after Nellie Bly came around. She created a movement on that. She swept the nation. She had vulnerable people, the most vulnerable people in our society that nobody spoke up for, nobody cared about, the throwaways. She spoke up for them. She spoke up for the rights of women who at that point were property. She was a voice for people all over the world, and she literally changed the world by writing about it. We are benefiting from Nellie's contributions today. We still are. Whether it's journalism, whether it's mental health institutions, whether it's social justice in general, women's rights issues, this chick, like, at the age of nothing, I mean, she was like a zygote out there writing articles, blasting these writers that, like, claimed that women should be killed at birth. Like, this is the kind of thing that she did, and not, like, dismissed by her gender, dismissed by society. She didn't care. She, like, at no point would she ever use an excuse to do anything that she felt like doing. This is a woman that was like, inspiration, go. Inspiration, let's do it. Like, do you consider fear at any point in the game? Nellie, you're just gonna, like, go for it. And look what she did because of it. And then we sit here, like, women women, men too, of every, like, whether you're an employer, an entrepreneur, stay-at-home parent, like, whatever you are, we let fear dictate so much of what we don't do and what we decide to do instead. And when we remember that these women were not even citizens, and they're like, don't care, I'm gonna do this, and all of society, all of their family is gonna look at them and say, you can't, you actually can't. And no one in their life was saying you can. Like, no one was doing that. You can do this, you can do it. Like, actually, yeah, like, you'd be the first, but you can do it. Nobody's saying that to them. They're saying that to them. And there's really, like, slim chance that should have been able to be done. And they're like, well, nobody else is doing it, I'm going to do it. So how do we sit here in the world with free communication, internet access to everywhere in the world, and living in a way that makes it so easy to try and to do and to succeed and to overcome and to try again and to go again and to succeed again? Like, I feel like when we look at these women that shouldn't have at all, and the whole world was against them and they did it anyway, then how can we have any excuses at all in a world that's like, of course you can. Of course you can. Like, there's evidence everywhere. Of course you can. And also, if people in your home are saying you can't, you literally go online to your friends and they're like, yeah, of course you can. So if they can do it then with the little they have, dear God, we could do it now with all that we do have. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna hit the comments. Who loves Nellie Bly as much as I do? No one could. Maybe Angie, maybe you do too. This woman, I was like, no, she didn't. No, she didn't. The more I read about her, I was like, no, she did. Go Nellie, go Nellie, go. Okay, so Stephanie, hey Stephanie, Courtney. Yeah, she's a beast. So power and heart. She had tons of power and heart. Yeah, she's crazy too. Oh, hey Jonty, how are you? Okay, so Nellie Bly's story, I found out like last night that Christina Ricci did a movie about Nellie Bly. I was like, oh, people know who she is? Because the women that I've picked in the past, like, very few people know who they are unless they had, you know, some kind of industry interest in that or historical interest in that for whatever reason. But, like, the women that I chose, like, nobody knew who Judith Cohen was when I was talking about her. And then you say Jack Black, and I was like, yeah, Jack Black. It's like, that's her mom. That's his mom. But Nellie Bly ended up having, like, a Hollywood movie done with Christina Ricci. And I was like, oh. But I looked into some of the details. A lot of it was embellished, you know, Hollywood. But her story is no less powerful. It's just so incredible. So, oh my gosh. If Nellie can help you in any way today, it's that your fear is BS. For sure it is. She took on everything. Do you need me to bullet point it? No, you don't. I know you heard. If she could tell you anything, it's that, like, just do it. In fact, oh my gosh, I have a quote from her. I'll tell you what she would tell you. She actually said it already. Here's what she said. Energy rightly applied and directed will accomplish anything. AKA, where focus goes, energy flows. Yeah, she's the originator, okay? If anyone can say that and prove it, it's her. She did it. And then another quote that she said was, I said I could, I would, and I did. It's actually 3 sentences, but, like, she said that. It's like, it's as simple as that. Do you want to do it? Say you're going to do it, be accountable, and go do it. What? It's like, really that easy? Yes, it's that easy. So, Nellie Bly, You are a rock star of a woman. We love you. I'm so glad that people like that exist in the world, and I'm so glad that women like that exist today, and that the changes that are being made with the people that I see, the clients that I know, and just evidence everywhere that these things are happening. It's really encouraging. So I hope you take that with you today. I hope that inspires you over the weekend. I think that it will. And I hope you have the best Thursday that you are capable of having, period. Talk to you guys soon.